Hi. You're muted. You're muted.
There's got to be a way I can figure out how to go through Sherry Ann's account to start this. It's not on the list. That's the problem.
Oh, I can give it to you.
And I can, all right. Well, yes, once we start, yes, give me this. But how do I do it in the future myself without having to bother you?
You can just log in as the host.
I tried. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So give me the host right now, and I'll take it, and tomorrow you and I can work this through.
That's fine. You want me to make you the host or the co-host?
Either way.
Okay.
I mean, you don't need to stay for it, is my point.
Oh, okay. Then I'm making you the host.
Okay, that works.
You are the host, but I'm going to stay on and just.
Okay.
I'll make me the co-host for right now. Oh,
yes,
I can do that. You have to do that.
I have to make you the co-host?
Yeah. Just click on my name and participants.
Okay. Where it's your Machzor, I guess?
Yeah. I'm going to change it right now, though.
And it says sign co-host. Got it.
And now.
Yeah, there you go.
For Shalom. Okay. How was the funeral?
It went okay. It turns out that the family thought they thought the brother was nuts. Mom came. Paula Grossman came up to me and said to me, "You deserve combat pay."
Oh.
So that's really all I care about is our member is happy. I don't care about anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So it went all right, and me and a bunch of Hasidim. And yeah, nobody gave me any grief. They brought their own shovels.
Okay. I'm letting in Martin Ginsburg.
Okay.
And Jeff.
Jeff. Okay. All right, I got to figure out how to do this. How do I get more than one?
More than one.
All I'm seeing is one face. I'm not seeing anything else.
Okay, go up to your right corner and click on gallery view.
It's not there. Oh wait, no, yeah. All right, I'm gonna get four. At some point, I'll switch over to my iPad from the iPhone, and then it'll work. On the iPhone, I just don't have the music that I need on the iPhone, so I needed to keep the iPad separate. It's hard to explain.
All right, try on the left upper corner with the iPad.
The iPhone. On the iPad, I can do it. I'm on a phone.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. So after I play Kol Nidre, I'll try and switch over.
Okay. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Beverly.
Shalom, shalom. Somebody got a haircut.
Hi, Martin.
I did. Hi, Cantor.
Yes. Hello there.
You can tell I had a haircut?
I can. It's a bit, it's a small picture on my phone, but I can tell. All right. Neither of you attended the Kol Nidre session before? Okay.
No.
I just want to make sure, because this is a repeat, and Thursdays get a third repeat. Okay. By the end, I'll know Kol Nidre.
Was this the topic last Sunday?
A week ago Sunday, yeah. This past Sunday, we didn't have a class. I'm catching everybody up.
Oh.
And then next Sunday will be the same as Tuesday and Thursday, and the same the following week.
I love that you're doing this more than once. Thursday, we would watch it at noon, but we'll be on our way to San Antonio to see our family. We get to hear you now.
Good, good. Well, thank you for joining me. Hello, Joyce.
Here tonight.
Hi.
How is everybody?
Doing great.
Good, good.
How are you?
Doing okay.
Is everybody nice and bored?
I'm sorry?
Is everybody nice and bored?
Yes.
Nice and bored, right? Well, this keeps us moving.
Yeah. It's amazing. I'm swamped. I am working constantly, and I'm bored.
I know. I know.
Yeah. There's the human piece of it that is just missing, that no matter how hard I work, I'm still bored. I need that human touch.
I
Yep.
know. I know.
We all do.
Yep. 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 Ugh. All right. So we've got what, 4 people? So yeah. Okay. Ah, there's Martin. Hello, Martin. I saw Beverly. I didn't see Martin. There you go. Anybody do anything interesting this week?
I mowed the grass this morning.
There you go. Yeah, I went out and I weed whacked yesterday. Yes, very exciting. Oh, God help us.
If we just knew when this was going to be over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be an end in sight.
No, I would imagine it's going to be a while. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be respectful of your time. And so what we're going to do is get started with Kol Nidre.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to play for you Kol Nidre by Cantor Zalvel-Farten, who is just an amazing cousin. Okay, it goes on and on as well. You know, you've heard it before. That's the good news. So the question I'd ask you: hear that music, and what are the emotions that are evoked in process?
Pleading.
Pleading. Okay. Anything else?
What is the new year gonna bring?
Okay. A sense of trepidation, and with it goes with it, pleading. All right.
Yeah.
So what I want to do now you've heard the music, we all know it, you hear it, you get into it, it just evokes all these memories that come with it. Now look at reading number 1, all right? And I had asked if possible to run the materials off. If not, just kind of listen along. I'm going to try and switch over. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to switch to my iPad. So let me see if I can do that right now. Zoom. Let me switch to the, I've got to find the number I just had. Here it is. Okay. Give me 1 second and then I will hopefully shift over. This is the disadvantage of not being terribly technically skilled. I know I'm not alone.
No, you're not.
That's for sure.
Okay. Hold it. That should do it. No, apparently not. Zoom.
Repeating yourself.
Yes, I am. I've heard that.
Okay.
You can be made bigger.
There.
No,
All right.
no.
Good. Okay. So, anybody have the text in front of them? Just raise your hand. Okay. Joyce, would you read for us reading number 1, which is the translation of what you just heard?
Okay.
From the art scroll. From the art scroll Siddur. Go ahead, Machzor.
All vows, prohibitions, consecrations, kunam vows, kunas vows, oaths or equivalent terms that we may vow, swear, consecrate, or prohibit upon ourselves from this Yom Kippur until the next Yom Kippur. May it come upon us for good. Regarding them all, we regret them henceforth. They all will be permitted, abandoned, canceled, null and void, without power, and without standing. Our vows shall not be valid vows. Our prohibitions shall not be valid prohibitions, and our oaths shall not be valid oaths.
Okay, so now I want to ask, what emotions are evoked by the text?
Well, it's very firm, and it's not pleading.
Yeah. Does it leave you a little flat?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a definite disconnect between what the words are saying and
Yes.
the music that has been written for it. All right? And that's what we're going to explore a little bit tonight, among other things. Okay? So I'm going to get into the meaning of the text in a little while, but I wanted you to hear both the text and the music echoes. The music you hear, you connect. The words, a lot less so. People who attend no other Jewish service in the year, we all know, go out of their way to be present on Yom Kippur evening just to hear Kol Nidre chanted. All right, the old once a year, 2 times a year, 3 times a year Jews. We know if you're planning in a synagogue and you've got to have the setups, Kol Nidre is when you're going to have your biggest crowd. You better be ready. Plain and simply. All right, the words, the music conjures up these images of an annual communal outpouring, crowded sanctuaries, haunting music. All right, nothing surprising. This intense emotion and spiritual energy is demonstrated by a story of a famous German Jewish philosopher by the name of Franz Rosenzweig. Rosenzweig grew up like many European Jews of his generation. His home was nominally Jewish, and his religious education was minimal. And as a young man, he decides he is going to convert to Christianity, as many of his contemporaries had already done. He further decides that to do so, he's going to convert to a Christian, not as a pagan, but as a Jew. He wants to make sure his Jewish identity is there because he sees that he's not rejecting Jewish origin as he understands it, but reenacting, as he's been told, the culmination of Judaism in Christianity, which is a Christian belief. Yom Kippur 1913, he attends Kol Nidre services at a small Orthodox synagogue in Berlin, and something dramatic happens to him. He never discusses it, but he's clearly transformed by it because he doesn't convert. And instead, not long after Yom Kippur, he writes to a friend and he says, after prolonged and I believe thorough self-examination, I have reversed my decision. It no longer seems necessary to me, and therefore being who I am, no longer possible. I will remain a Jew. Something happened. The power of this service is transformative. So I'm going to give a little bit of background, and then we'll get into the prayer. Kol Nidre itself is at one and the same time both, excuse me, both less and more than a prayer. It's less than a prayer in that it makes absolutely no requests, and it's not even addressed to God. Okay? It's less than a prayer in that is actually a legal formula with no human spirit. That's what you read. There's a legality to this. And in case it's not clear, it is said with the cantor flanked by two scholars holding Torahs, while the Torah is chanted 3 times. Okay, and so what you have here is the nullification of vows following the legal practice that requires 3 things. 1, 3 men as a Beit Din. So you've got your court. You're surrounded by the 2 Torahs. You have formed a court. You've got the whole thing must, by Jewish law, begin prior to sunset. It's actually supposed to be concluded prior to sunset. Theoretically, Kol Nidre may not be recited on Yom Kippur. It's a legal statement. And third, is it done 3 times, which is another way of expressing a legal expression in the ancient world. So it's 3 witnesses, recited 3 times, done before the holiday, because on a holiday, you can't make a legal declaration. All right, so it's clear there's a legality to what's going on here. At the same time, it's also more than a prayer. There is a ritual unto itself. If you think of Kol Nidre, you picture all the Torahs taken out of the ark, people standing with the Torahs in their hands, and with the exception of Simchat Torah, Erev Simchat Torah, there is no other time in the year in which the ark sits empty. The ark is emptied. It's almost a bizarre experience. So you've got this ritual unto itself. You have the mystique that every other night of the year, no one wears a tallis. Yom Kippur, you're wearing a tallis. Now there's a legal component to that as well, because again, since Kol Nidre must be recited prior to sundown, prior to Ma'ariv, you can wear a tallis, because you don't wear it for Ma'ariv. And once you've started, you keep it. All right, that's then the tradition. So you started as if it's mincha when you can wear a talit. So you've got the talit on, men standing there with men and women standing there with the Torahs, and the ark empty. All right. There's another way, by the way, of understanding the tallis. We're buried in talises. And one of the echoes that we hear throughout Yom Kippur is this reference to death. I mentioned this in the first lesson I did on Unatana Tokef, that Judaism is a life-affirming religion. We talk about life all the time. There's one exception, and that's Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, we practice death. We don't engage in any of the life-affirming behaviors that we normally do. There's no eating, there's no drinking, there's no sexuality, all the things that would normally be associated with promoting life are withdrawn for 25 hours. And so the talit, which is also worn when one is buried, is also worn here, as is the white robe. You're wearing a white robe, the shroud, which is what you would be buried in, okay? With such pageantry that goes around Kol Nidre, it's not only more than a prayer, it's a high point of the entire evening, to the point that in some ways, everything that follows is like liturgy, is like background liturgical music. It's like sitting in the elevator and listening to music. Kol Nidre is just that powerful with the music and the pageantry that surrounds it. There are a number of problems, however, with this text. All right, number of problems, and even without looking at the specifics of its words. The first is that it's in medieval Aramaic. It's not in Hebrew. I had Nomi Baranchik in my class on a Sunday when I taught this, and I said to Nomi, can you translate this for me? And she looked at me and said to me, I can't. Israelis can't translate this text. Okay? So that's a problem. The second problem is it defies moral logic. It is a blanket request that God hold us guiltless for the vows that we make and don't honor. And yet Judaism demands just the opposite. When we give our word, when we make a vow before God, we are held accountable for it. So it defies all that Judaism stands for. And finally, the Talmudic passage, which provides the legal basis for the entire prayer, doesn't even speak of Yom Kippur, it speaks of Rosh Hashanah. So Jeff, if you would read reading number 2.
Okay. He who desires that none of his vows made during the year shall be valid, let him stand at the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah, and declare every vow which I may make in the future shall be null.
Okay. So what we have here is a Talmudic statement that Kol Nidre should be recited prior to Rosh Hashanah. Sometime in the Middle Ages, it got changed. Because we don't do it on Erev Rosh Hashanah. We do it on Erev Yom Kippur. Give you a couple reasons, okay? Anytime there's a couple reasons, it means they're not sure. It means there's plenty of reasons, okay? So I'm going to give you 2. The medieval authorities explained that it was done to accommodate the rank and file worshipers, meaning, just like today, people come to services at sometimes and not at others. Not so many people were showing up on Erev Rosh Hashanah. More people were showing up on Erev Yom Kippur. When are we going to say this? Erev Yom Kippur. Just completely like it is in today's world. That's one reason. But there's an additional reason the tradition provides, and that is there's a fear that if you annul your vows on Rosh Hashanah, and on Yom Kippur the decisions are being made about our future, what happens to vows that get made between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Okay? And so they moved it, in a sense, to the last possible minute. Which of these 2 is true? The answer is yes. Okay? The answer is yes. All right. I want you to look at the text in the Hebrew that I have, and I want you to look at the first line, and you will see I highlighted the first line in yellow. Kol nidre ve'esare v'charame v'koname v'chinuye v'kinuse ushvuot. These are all synonyms for vows. All right? They're all, in a sense, think the same word, okay? Oh, it's my phone. I got an Amber Alert going on. I'm turning it off. Okay. It's hard for us to appreciate how seriously they took their odes and days in which the universe for them was a moral existence, not a scientific existence. We assume a world, we know that a universe run by mathematical principles in which there's no negotiating. You don't have a negotiation with science, despite some of the recent comments in the newspapers. Bad things happen sometimes to good people because simply that's the way the world is. That's the way. No guru, no shaman, no sorcerer is going to compel the universe to be other than it is. Our ancestors, however, understood the world through a moral lens, not one of science. They lived in fear of forces beyond themselves that would punish their moral failings by redirecting nature to cause them some kind of harm. It's not that it's not simply that they didn't just know as much as we do, which is true. It's not that they were unscientific in the sense that they didn't understand cause and effect. They simply had the list of causes wrong. Okay, they understood cause and effect. They just had a different list of causes. No less than we, they employed the knowledge that they had to ward off disasters. In our world, we wear seatbelts. We wash our hands. We wear sunscreen. We eliminate harmful foods. Today, we're social distancing and wearing masks. All right? That we understand that our behaviors can bring about certain consequences, that we can reduce the odds of certain things happening by engaging in certain protective behaviors. For them, the knowledge included sacrifices and later prayer that would change the courses as they understood. All right. In such a world, a vow has great importance. Okay? The sheer number of terms for vows I just listed out for you, kol nidre, v'yasarei, b'charamei, et cetera, emphasizes just how important this is. You know, Eskimos have 95 words for snow or whatever the number is. There's lots of different numbers because it's such a part of their world that nuanced little differences are for them important in a way that they're not for us, certainly in Texas, okay? There's no sense of we distinguish between one snow and another. In the Eskimo world, it's critical. That's what they're doing here, though, with vows. For them, it was so core to them that every little nuance required a different angle on it. And even the rabbis warned the people to not engage in vows, all right? That they might activate supernatural punishment, and the warnings went unheeded. They were so committed to vows. As a result, the Bible itself finds it necessary to protest against excessive vowing. So reading number 3, Beverly.
When you make a vow to the Lord your God, do not put off fulfilling it. For the Lord your God will require it of you, and you will have incurred guilt. Whereas you incur no guilt if you refrain from vowing.
Don't vow, you have no guilt. You're in business. Keep going.
Do not be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. Better it is that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Allow not your mouth to bring your flesh to guilt, but fear God.
Okay. The importance of vows and the power of not fulfilling it is clear from both the text in Deuteronomy and then in Ecclesiastes. Michael, you have to
So,
unmute.
correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're wrong.
do we not, do we not have a number of places in our daily prayers where we make vows to God?
Give me an example.
Well, I'm not thinking of one, but I'm just assuming, and I'm probably wrong. But if we are required as Jews to make vows to God, if we're praying in the way we're supposed to, then you really can't say, well, don't make a vow, and then you don't have to follow through with it.
All right. So the only thing I can think of in terms of what you're suggesting, and then I hope I'm on target with it, is the commitment to the mitzvot. Okay,
Right.
That is obligatory upon us. Okay, when they're talking about vows, I'm thinking more in terms of vows like the Nazir would make above and beyond. Okay, this would be something like, just to give you an example, mom is in the hospital and dying. God, if you A, B, C, D, then I will A, B, C, D,
Right.
and then not fulfilling it. This is above and beyond the mitzvot.
Okay.
All right, they're private deals in a sense. Okay, so I think that the mitzvot themselves, I think you're correct. There's a vow of committing to that, but that's not a choice at the end of the day. You're in that relationship. You can break the vows, you can break the mitzvot, but you're obligated to them by being a Jew. That's the covenantal relationship. Okay. Not that simple. Kol Nidre has survived centuries of powerful and persistent opposition. Non-Jews, Christians primarily, have used the text of Kol Nidre to support the claim that the word of a Jew has little value, as vows can be annulled by saying this text. This has been repeated so often that many of the Christian legislators of the medieval period considered it necessary in court to establish a special form of oath that would be administered to Jews. And many of the judges simply refused to accept the Jews' testimony based on the objection that whatever they say, whatever they vow here can be excused and they can get away with it. You realize that, even in America, we take certain vows very, very seriously. You go to court, and what do they ask you to do? Put your hand on a Bible and say, I promise to tell the truth. Obviously, if we didn't take that seriously, it would be a complete waste of time. Right? You know in advance that perjury is illegal. You know that. So it's not as if putting your hand on the Bible changes anything. But somehow by invoking God and taking the vow seriously in this process, it's as if saying, whatever it is that has happened here, my vow, my breaking my vow, is a greater consequence than even if I'm murdered. Okay? Understand how significant that is. Opponents of this prayer, however, have also included rabbis. Rabbis who challenge the underlying principle, that of a blanket annulment of vows. Yehuda Gaon in the 8th century went so far to make the statement that he forbid any study whatsoever of the Talmudic tractates on vows. They wanted this to be out of the awareness of people. Let's not even talk about vows. Let's take it off the table. Judah ben Barzillai, a Spanish author of the 12th century, declares that the custom of reciting Kol Nidre is unjustifiable and misleading, since many of the ignorant people, the great majority of the people, believe that all their vows and oaths are annulled in this formula, and therefore they take on vows and obligations on themselves carelessly. It's like it's trivial. I know I can get out of it. Don't worry about it. In the Art Scroll Machzor, I don't think you have this here, there it says, there is a dangerous and erroneous misconception among some people that the Kol Nidre nullification of vows gives people the right to break their word or to make insincere promises that will have no legal force. That is not the case. Again, we're in the Art Scroll here. The Kol Nidre declaration can invalidate only vows that one undertakes of his own volition, and only the erroneously broken vows are annulled, that nobody might commit the sin of intentionally breaking vows. So the first contingency here is that anything that you break intentionally, this is not nullifying it. It has to be unintentional. That's the first qualification. Only unintentional. Additionally, vows and obligations involving relations between people, between man and man, are not encompassed in the Kol Nidre. This is only about a vow to God, about something I have in relation to God. This is about, I'm making a deal with God to save mom. This is not about interactions in the business world. This is not about human interactions and caring for one another. This is strictly a relationship with God, and it's a personal relationship I enter in willingly, and I cannot break it intentionally. So that's the qualifications of what we're saying, all right? What you're trying to do in this process, on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and during the 10 days of repentance, is trying to bridge a relationship with God. And if you see sin and, or in this case, vows, as something that stands in the way of bridging that relationship, that you need, in a sense, to get past in order to recreate that relationship, then it begins to make sense. And what you do with people has nothing to do with that. This is about the relationship with God. You should know that this opposition to Kol Nidre has continued into the last 2 centuries, yielding to numerous accusations and complaints. In the course of the centuries, the Reform Rabbinic Council, held in Brunswick in 1844, decided unanimously that the formula was not essential. Now, that's a very technical term, not essential in terms of how Reform Jews understood it. They say that the members of the convention should exert their influence to securing the speedy abolition of the text. But they love the melody. So what did they do? They retained the melody and they applied it to a German hymn or Psalm 130. They took the melody and put it on another text. But in 1844, the Reform movement rejected the text. Now, you may know that if you go to a Reform synagogue today, they are saying it, because in 1961, in its full Aramaic text, it was restored, so strong was the sentimental appeal. Just as that's kind of why I started out by playing the music and then reading the words. It's almost as if the words are irrelevant. I want you to hear that, because for me, you'll hear from me all the time, Perush HaMilim, the meaning of the words, the meaning of the words. Forget the melody. The melody has to reflect what's going on. You can't just use any melody because you like it. And the one exception to that is Kol Nidre. We like the melody. And it has nothing to do with the words. Nothing. All right, so it got restored back into, and by the way, the same thing happened in the Reconstructionist movement, and they've also replaced it, but they've changed a number of the words. The Reform movement went back to the original text. Reconstructionist movement changed it. Okay. I want you also now to look at the text, and you'll see there's a number of words I highlighted in red. You'll see it says, Mi Yom Kippurim, from Yom Kippur, Zeh, from this Yom Kippur until Yom Kippurim Haba, until the Yom Kippur that's happening, that will happen. So theoretically, when you are saying this year's Kol Nidre in 2020, what you're saying in the Ashkenazic text is, may all the vows I make between Rosh Hashanah 2020 and 2021 be null. In advance. This is not a retrospective. Now look in parentheses. This is in the, I took the parentheses from our Machzor. This is usually what's found in Sephardic texts. She'avar ad Yom Kippurim zeh. Now they're talking about the vows that were made from last year until this point. So you've got two different time references at play. The earlier one was indeed the one that talked about from last year to now, all right? And it got changed. It was Rashi's son-in-law. So again, we're not talking about some bubble. Rashi's son-in-law, Rabbi Meir, in the 12th century, changed the text to go to the future. It's not historical, it's a priori. One might not. The concern was, what if I make a vow in the coming year and I die before Rosh Hashanah? I died before Kol Nidre. Now I've died with unfulfilled vows. How do I stand before God? That's the rationale that Rabbi Meir brought to the table. This transition, as I said to you, has been accepted fully in the Ashkenazic world, not necessarily in the Sephardic world. And so as a result, many Machzors, I know most of the Machzors I've used in my life have had only the future tense. The current Machzor we're using actually has both, and it puts it in parentheses like I put it. Some Sephardic communities make a point of reciting both. So they'll say the past tense in the first two recitations, and then they'll say the future tense in the third recitation. Talk about covering all bases, okay? That's what that's about. All right. First of all, any questions so far?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Nidre, is that Aramaic plural, or is that a construct? Yes. That's not a construction.
It's not smichut, is what you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Hebrew, when you want to take two nouns back to back, all right, you add a certain form. So, for example, Bait is a house. Sefer is a book. When you want to say a house of books, meaning a school, it's not Bait Sefer, it becomes Beit Sefer. You switch the first word and in a sense, add the word of. The same thing is true of bar mitzvah, becomes b'nei mitzvah. It's not banim mitzvah. It's children of the mitzvah. But here in the Aramaic, that is the plural form.
Okay, so I'm not looking for another word.
Not the construct, right?
I'm not looking for another word to connect it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
So let's look a little at the music, talk a little bit about it. All right. Edelson, who, when I was at the seminary, Edelson is the seminal writings about Jewish music. All right. He's a leading scholar in Jewish music, and he wrote what's written in reading number 4. Cyril, do you have the text in front of you? You need to unmute.
How's that?
Go for it.
Okay. While the text, a mere announcement of vows, is devoid of religious emotions, its musical setting is generally accepted as an expression of the deep religious feelings which move the Jewish heart on the eve of the Day of Atonement.
So the idea that the words fall flat and the music is powerful is not Mark Levine. All right, that's what he's saying. That's what Edelson is saying here. So one of the things, so let's talk about the history a little bit. The recorded documentation of Jewish liturgical music is very limited. Prior to 250 years ago, prior to 1750, 270 years ago, prior to 750, there were only 20 documents in total of Jewish written musical notation. Chazanut and Jewish music was taught sitting at the feet of a pro. Sitting, you hear David Crone. He learned his Chazanut sitting at the feet of his dad, who was a true pro at Nusach. He understood what he was doing. That was the way in which Chazanut was transferred. There was very little written music. The oldest melodies we have, we know for sure, are from the high holidays. The ones that which is written, we have from the high holidays as first. Some of those we still sing today, the high holidays. So for example, the melody, not Aleinu L'Shabbat, which we know on Shabbos, etc., that's relatively new. The traditional melody from the holidays of Aleinu L'Shabbat, that was the traditional mode that went with it. Another melody that was very old in its style, another Misinai, you'll recognize right away. You walk into the synagogue on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and you hear over and over, that is a Misinai tune, okay? You also know Kol Nidre. So those are at least 3 examples of melodies out of the past. We call them Misinai tunes. We don't really believe Moses came down the mountain with 2 tablets and it's singing in his heart. All right? It's really just a way of expressing that they're the oldest melodies we have. The history of Kol Nidre itself, however, is clouded in mystery. The earliest reference to any Kol Nidre melody, we don't know what melody it was, comes from Judah Hanasi in the 12th century in Jerusalem. There we know that there was a practice of saying it 3 times. It was recorded that way in the Machzor Vitri in the 12th century and in the Old French Jewry. Each of the repetitions was intended to convey particular thoughts and emotions. And it's probable that the early Chazanim improvised their way to express those different kinds of emotions. So the 3 times they were recited probably weren't the same. We do a little bit of that with the music as well today. You may or may not be aware that when Kol Nidre is recited, each time you sing it, you go up half a tone. So if you start in G, the second time it's in G sharp, and the third time it's A. It's meant to elevate, in a sense, the energy. So as you get to those top notes, it's exploding more and more each time through. But over the course of time, certain melodies have become traditional. For example, we know that in the 15th century, the Maharil, who's the father of the Ashkenazic mode of worship, had his own special melody. We don't know what it was, but we know from text that he had his own melody. So let's look at the 16th century, reading number 5. Somebody who hasn't read already, Michael, you can read number 5. If I don't see your face, I don't know if you're there, and I don't want to embarrass you, so I'm not going to call on you. Michael.
Are you sure this is my face?
I wouldn't swear to anything.
Most of the text of Kol Nidre, as it is now printed in the Machzorim, makes no sense and is quite unintelligible. The only thing that gives it substance and meaning is the melody. Rabbi Mordechai Yaffa.
All right. You're hearing this over and over and over. So the melody by the 5th century had developed in some way that it was powerful. 1871, Louis Lewandowski is a music director and a composer in Berlin, and he publishes a form of Kol Nidre that essentially has become standard ever since. When David Crone came to Brit Shalom, the first thing he asked me is, do I have F in the book, the series, the anthology Ephros? Do I have it? Because that's where you'll find the choir version by Lewandowski. It's what they do at Brit Shalom. It's what they did at Shereth Israel in Dallas. It's what I did when I was in Nanuet in New York. It's basically the format with a choir. Now, I do want to say, despite that's and you recognize it, okay? There are probably no two synagogues in which the melody is chanted note for note in the same way. There are some minor divergences, but they're not radical. And the result is you would recognize Kol Nidre no matter what little modifications you hear. If you listen to Farton, you didn't hear Kol Nidre V'Yasare. He played a little bit more around. He played with it. He got to where he needed to get musically, but he played. You'll still recognize it. So there's a basic formula that has to be followed. There is no other piece of music that follows the structure of Kol Nidre. It is unique. And excuse me, because it's unique, it has worked its way into the popular culture in certain ways as well. Excuse me. In 1826, Beethoven incorporated the Kol Nidre opening motive into the sixth movement of the string quartet in C sharp minor. All right, so Beethoven knew from it. Kol Nidre has also found its way into popular culture. The first talkie, the jazz singer, in 1927, features Kol Nidre as a music symbol for the film's message as a whole. Al Jolson is featured as Jackie Rabinowitz, a cantor's son. He disappoints his father by abandoning the world of synagogue music to become a jazz singer. And at the film's end, Jackie has to choose which world in which his heart lies. His father becomes too ill to sing Kol Nidre, and so Jackie cancels his jazz performance to fill in for him. And this film had an enormous impact on Jewish moviegoers who saw in Jackie their own story of mounting identity conflict between the loyalty to Jewish past and acculturation into American society on the other. And Kol Nidre became musically and emotionally the symbol of the tug of tradition. So it made its way into the popular music. Now, who sang Kol Nidre? There was a second version that you all know probably in more recent years. Who sang Kol Nidre in that one?
Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond. Now, I got a great piece of trivia for you. 1959, there was a television presentation of the movie of Jazz Singer. Anybody have any idea who sang it in that film? You're gonna love this.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Close. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis. Hard to imagine you think of his goofy little voice, but he sang Kol Nidre in the 59 version on television. I want to look at one more text that right before you do Kol Nidre, there's actually an opening text. Beshiva shel mala, in the yeshiva on high, uveshiva shel mata, and in the yeshiva down low, anu matpilin, we pray im ha'avaryanim. It talks about we are able to pray. We have permission to pray with the sinners, ha'avaryanim. And I heard a great version years ago where they get the last word is ma'avirin, is the sinners, and you hear them go, im ha'avaryanim. You can't miss that you're reaching the bottom here, okay? Clearly, I love it. What it's saying is, what is going on here is reading number 6, okay? And so, Martin, you haven't read. Would you read reading number 6 for us?
By the authority of the heavenly court.
And, there should be another word, and.
Yeah, hold on. I'm reading this on a tiny screen.
Okay.
By the authority of the heavenly court of the earthly,
And of the earthly court.
and of the earthly court, with the foreknowledge of the God of time and space, and with the agreement of this congregation, we give permission to pray with habitual sinners.
With the Yanim. And notice it's the same Rabbi Meir who changed the tense to the future text. This is Rashi's grandson who wrote this text. So something's going on here. Let's talk about that. Perfection is not a requirement for joining a holy community, thank God. All right? There is a Talmudic teaching in the name of Simon Hasidah, and he says the following: any fast that does not include the presence of Jewish sinners is not a fast. It's not simply that you can do the service without sinners. It's required to have sinners. It's not an option. You have to have sinners. I got good news for you. I think we all qualify. Okay, that's the good news. Any group of people that's coming together, we are a collection of people who are works in progress. What unites us is not what we've accomplished, but what we're striving to accomplish. All right, so I have good news. All right, and I think he knew that when he was writing this. So that's one understanding of the Avaryanim, is that we're able to sing, we're able to pray with the sinners. But in medieval times, a different understanding developed. Avaryanim can also be understood as Iberians. Iberians are the Jews who lived in Spain and Portugal from Roman times until the expulsion in 1492. All right, those who lived in Spain and Portugal on the Iberian Peninsula. From 1391 on, this is when the beginning of everything starts just going downhill for Jews. A vicious anti-Jewish campaign by the Christian clergy started, claiming that Kol Nidre arose specifically to nullify the vows of conversion that the Iberian Jews were forced to take. And you remember, they said to them, you're either going to convert or we're going to kill you. Now the question becomes, once they convert, were they real? Were they being honest? Or were the Christian clergy were suggesting, but Kol Nidre comes along and they can just annul what they vowed. They can annul their conversion. If you want to know more about this, time for a commercial break. Starting late October, I'll be doing a 14-week class on the history of anti-Semitism. All right, commercial break over. So to be sure, we know that it was already in the 12th century that Rabbi Meir was already commenting on changing Kol Nidre in the 1100s. So it was not written for the purpose the Christian clergy are talking about in the 1390s. All right, it was written much before that. But the association between Kol Nidre and the Spanish converts has remained for us. The church had a problem. They had a problem telling who was a serious convert and who was faking, who was a true believer and who was a closet Jew. And you'll see that they go and they watch and they look for example, on Friday night to see whose smoke in the chimney has stopped because they're not lighting a fire. All right, they would watch for such things. What their problem is you have this group of people that have converted. Through conversion, they now have a right into full society and can take jobs that other Christians might have had. Jews were not allowed to have these jobs, but the converts were. If they're lying, we have a problem. In 1469, going a little further, Ferdinand and Isabella unite the Christian kingdoms of Spain. And yes, that is the Ferdinand and Isabella of the Columbus story that we're talking about. They institute the Inquisition to hunt down all the crypto-Jews and kill them. Now note, the Inquisition is only directed against lapsed Christians. In other words, the people who accepted Christianity, whether it was honestly or not, whether it was forced or not, but then who persisted in practicing Judaism anyway. It didn't care about Jews who never undertook an oath to convert. The Inquisition had no interest in them at all. But those who were still Jews were a bad influence. and might be a problem for the converts. And so in March 31st, my birthday, I couldn't be more proud, 1492, the new monarchs issue an edict of expulsion for Jews from July 31st, which is the last of 100,000 Jews who leave Spain at that point. So what you now have in Spain, Jews are gone. Their potential influence over the converts is gone. All that is left at this point are the converts, whether honestly or dishonestly. All that is left are those who converted. Thank you. I've never seen this person before. And of those remaining, they're encouraged to inform on one another until nobody is safe from the Inquisition's scrutiny and accusation. And so over the next generation, thousands of these Jewish converts to Christianity flee Iberia, and they find their way to North Africa, to Turkey, to Italy, to Holland. What they're doing is they're going to communities where the Jews who fled in 1492 established new Jewish communities. They're seeking out those who didn't convert to move back into their community. So I want you to picture this scenario. You've got Jews who said, I will not convert under any conditions. I will take my family. I will leave. I will not give, I will leave all my finances. I will leave all the stuff that I have. I will start fresh and go. And a generation later, show up a group of Jews who said, no, I'm going to fit my way into the larger community, but now are being persecuted and are asking for them to welcome them back into the Jewish community. So the question becomes, does one get a second chance at being Jewish? This is not a new question. Rashi is the one who originally in the 1100s, in the 11th century rather, rules that yes, you are legally Jews once you're born a Jew, or once you converted as a Jew, you're a Jew. But it obviously, if Rashi's ruling that until that point, it wasn't clear. And then you have the issue of it may be legally true, but you have the emotional component of we gave up so much for this and you didn't. Should we take you back? And so the rabbis ended up declaring, Anu matirin, we are permitted, lehitpalel im ha'avaryanim, we are permitted to pray with these Iberians. That was the ruling. So the Avaryanim can be sinners, but it also can be the Iberians who are returning after having converted. Right? You have the rulings on both sides. So what's the lesson? Rabbis would never miss an opportunity for a lesson to be pulled out. We're all Iberians. We're all hiding something. We have secrets. We have failed. We have betrayed. We have certainly found ourselves far from where we plan to be in life. That's called midlife crisis, right? We all know this. None of us plan to be exactly where we are, and it changed, and we've had to adapt, etc. And we seek God's forgiveness and new beginnings. Somewhere in the deep recesses of our mind, we carry the pictures of what our expectations would be, a map of our lives, and we know that's not where we are. And with that, I want to read, let's read reading number 7. Everybody's read. Somebody want to read again? Nobody. Michael, would you read reading number 7? And halfway through, Joyce, you pick up.
Okay.
Let's see. He was perfectly successful. He lived a perfect life, an exceptional record in school, brilliant career, perfect wife, perfect kids, the whole package, except it never sat right with him. Maybe because he'd gained it so easily. It felt he hadn't really earned it. Or maybe it just didn't seem to add up to the greatness he dreamed of. The inner unrest grew strong, but there was no one in whom he could confide. His wife was busy with her career and her pursuits. His friends would not have believed him. And besides, men don't easily share these things. So he held it together. He was perfect and he was perfectly miserable. Welcome to Iberia.
One night at a company party, somebody offered him a hit of cocaine. Why not? He never did it in college, too busy earning perfection points. Maybe now it was time to live a little. Moments later, he felt remarkable. All the anxiety gone, he was once again at the center of the universe. When the same client visited him days later and offered another hit of the drug, he was eager. Soon after, he contacted the client and asked to buy some of the drug. Another larger purchase ensued, and another after that. Gradually, the cocaine displaced everything in his life, his work, his friends, his wife and kids. Nothing mattered except the drug. When confronted, he reacted violently and irrationally, denied he had a problem. Piece by piece, he lost it all. The career, the family, respect, love, a perfect tragedy. To support his habit, he resorted to stealing, and then he got caught. In jail, he hit bottom and came to the truth. Slowly, he began to climb up and out and toward Teshuvah. Slowly, he made his amends and began again. A true Iberian.
And most of us have not had such a drastic fall from grace, but we've all had, in our own way, our own slippage. Every one of us is an Iberian. Everyone has had moments that drive us off our life's map. No one plans to get a divorce. No one plans to have a disease. No one plans to commit a criminal act. No one ever anticipated an undistinguished career or an underachieving child. All right? No matter how good we look on the outside, no one's life is perfect. So my fellow Iberians, okay, here's the truth of Kol Nidre. There is life after failure. There is treatment for disease. There's rehabilitation after disability. There are new career opportunities. There are healthy new relationships even after the most painful divorce. And there are ways to help our kids and to help ourselves. On Kol Nidre, we're whole again, we're home again, and we're finally free of the burdens. So the goal every year on Kol Nidre, the rabbi will stand before you and say, I want to ask everybody in the congregation for forgiveness. That's the interpersonal piece. Kol Nidre and the service is about relationship with God, not the individuals within the congregation. And you'll hear me say this not about any other prayer in the prayer book. Put the words away and listen to the music. I'll take any questions.
Okay, just one commercial.
Yes.
Yelp you. If anyone hasn't listened to the course on anti-Semitism, I would recommend that you do it because it's just stuff you would never hear anywhere else.
Very
Thank you.
special.
Thank
Yes.
Yeah, it was very special.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you. You'll check in the mail.
Just one?
Nobody does anti-Semitism like Cantor Levine.
Oh, thank you.
Cantor, who did you say wrote reading number 7?
Yeah, I think, my numbers are wrong. It should have been 5, I think, whatever. Yeah. What do you have for 7?
Oh, the one we just read. He was perfectly successful.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Who did you say wrote that?
Oh, I honestly don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't remember the source on it. I apologize. But
Okay.
now I got to go back and look. Thanks a lot. All right.
Thank you, Cantor.
Thank you. On Sunday and then
Thank
next
you.
Tuesday night and then the following Thursday, we're going to look at a Shamnu and Al Chet in the process of confessional. That's the goal. And then the 4th week will be on Nila, which is a brand new lesson I've never taught before. So join me for that.
And
All
Sunday,
right,
it's
everyone.
Sunday at 10 o'clock.
Sunday at 10, Tuesday at 7, Thursday at noon.
Well, so we'll do this on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.